Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're looking into a case. A guy named Patrick Franklin Andrews.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
He's serving multiple life sentences.
Multiple. Wow.
Yeah, for murder. But get this, one of those murders happened while he was already in prison.
Inside prison. That's something else. Makes you wonder what leads someone to that level of violence even when they're already locked up.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to try and figure out. How does someone end up in, well, basically, Supermax? So to get there, let's start at the beginning, right? What do we know about Andrews, his early life, any crimes before all this?
The official record, it starts in 97, 2 murders.
97. Okay.
But that's it. That's all we got. No details, no motives, just boom, 2 murders.
So it's like we're starting this puzzle and half the pieces are already missing.
Right. And then there's this gap, like 10 years, where he's got to be active. Right. But we don't know what's going on.
So much we don't know. Could be other crimes. Maybe these murders are connected somehow, some bigger pattern.
It's all speculation. The sources just don't give us those answers.
Well, more mystery just makes for a better deep dive, doesn't it? But let's move on to the case that really, I guess you could say, made Andrews infamous, the 2007 murder of Jesse Harris at USP Hazleton.
Okay, yeah, Hazleton, that one was brutal. Harris was stabbed like 20 times.
20 times, jeez.
And it wasn't just a fight. This was planned, an ambush. Andrews and another inmate, Kevin Bellinger, they targeted Harris.
Most prison violence, it's about power, right?
Yeah.
So what makes this murder different? What makes it Supermax worthy?
The backstory, that's what's interesting. Andrews, Bellinger, and Harris, they all knew each other before prison, had history in D.C.
So not random prison violence then. It's like a continuation of something from the outside.
Could be, yeah. Revenge, maybe. Score to settle. Definitely adds another layer to the case.
This deep dive just keeps getting deeper, doesn't it? Okay, so let's fast forward the legal aftermath of the Hazleton murder. What happens?
Things get a little weird. The indictment doesn't come until 2012.
5 years later.
Yep. Not unheard of in prison cases. Investigations are tougher. Witnesses don't always cooperate. Evidence is harder to find. It makes figuring things out, well, a lot harder.
Makes sense. So 5 years later, they're indicted. What about Bellinger and Andrews?
They go separate ways, legally speaking. Bellinger, he goes to trial, gets another life sentence in 2014.
Another life sentence.
And then Andrews, he pleads guilty the next year, 2015.
Guilty. He was already serving life. Was he hoping for a lighter sentence? Maybe a plea deal?
Hard to say without more info. Maybe he saw what happened to Bellinger, figured he'd lose at trial too, maybe wanted to avoid the whole thing dragging out. Or could be something else entirely.
So convicted murderer, serving life, kills again, pleads guilty. And where does that leave Patrick Franklin Andrews today?
USP Florence High, Colorado. That's a Supermax facility.
Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. Florence High, that's not your average prison, is it?
Nope. USP Florence High, it's for the worst of the worst.
Worst of the worst.
The extreme threats, guys who just can't be managed anywhere else.
So terrorists, mob bosses, maybe other serial killers. What exactly did Andrews do to end up there?
Well, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
We've got to talk more about Florence High. That place is serious solitary confinement most of the day, barely any human contact. What does that do to a guy like Andrews, someone who's already violent?
It's a question that's been debated for years. Does isolation make mental health problems worse? Or does it work? Does it stop more violence?
Let's put that aside for a second, focus on Andrews. We've got these possible reasons for him ending up in Supermax, right? The Hazleton murder was brutal, maybe gang stuff, even that escape attempt. What seems most likely to you?
Tough to say for sure. We'd need his prison records for that. But looking at what we've got, I'd say the Hazleton murder itself, that was the big one. He didn't just kill Harris, he planned it out, did it in a high-security prison. That shows he's thinking ahead and he doesn't care about the rules. That's got to worry people.
Yeah, makes sense. If you're doing life and you kill again, it's not a good look. But what about the gangs? Couldn't that get you sent to Supermax?
Oh, absolutely. Prison gangs, they're powerful. Their reach goes way beyond the walls. If Andrews was involved, especially if he was high up, yeah, that could get him moved to Supermax fast.
So we've got two strong possibilities. The murder itself, showing he's capable of serious violence, and maybe gang involvement. Both make him look like a major threat, even in a place like Hazleton.
And don't forget the escape attempt. Even in a place like Hazleton, people try to break out, some even make it. For a guy doing multiple life sentences trying to escape, that shows he'll do anything to get free no matter what.
Right, that would definitely freak out the prison officials.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm still stuck on. We've got these possibilities, but we don't know exactly why he went to Supermax. It's like he just vanished into this black hole of the prison system.
So that's what makes it so interesting, right? Shows how secretive the system is. We get these glimpses into Andrew's life, but so much is hidden, makes you wonder what else is going on in those prisons.
Okay, bigger picture time. We've focused on Andrews, his crimes, what got him to Supermax. But what can we learn from this as a society?
Andrew's story, I think it makes us face some big questions about our justice system. If a guy's willing to kill while he's already doing life, what does that say about how we punish people, how we try to rehabilitate them?
Does it mean that tougher punishments don't actually make us safer?
Yeah.
That we need to look deeper at what causes this kind of violence, both in prison and outside?
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, is the system even equipped to deal with someone like Andrews? Are we doing enough to rehabilitate people, to get at the root of the problem? Or are we just locking them away and hoping that's enough?
It's complicated, no easy answers. But it's a conversation we need to have. And cases like Patrick Franklin Andrews, as messed up as they are, they can get that conversation started.
Yeah, they make us face some hard truths about violence, about what people are capable of. And they push us to think critically about the systems we've built. Do they actually work?
It's like looking into the abyss, trying to understand someone who can be so brutal, even when they're facing the worst possible consequences.
And sometimes what we see looking back at us, well, it's scary, even disturbing. But it's in those moments, the uncomfortable ones, that's when we really learn about ourselves, about the world.
So we've gone deep, right, into the world of Patrick Franklin Andrews, a case with so many missing pieces. We've talked about his crimes, the mystery of his early life, and what finally got him sent to Supermax. But before we wrap up, we need to talk about something we haven't touched on yet, the victims.
You're right, it's easy to get lost in the details of the case and trying to understand the criminal's mind. But we can't forget the real people hurt by these crimes, the families, the people left behind dealing with the pain and loss. Their stories matter, and we need to hear them.
And even though we may never fully understand why Andrews did what he did, we can at least acknowledge the damage he caused, how much he hurt other people. Feels like we've gone down this rabbit hole, spent all this time on Andrews, and we still have so many questions.
That's how it is with these cases, you know. We can look at the facts, the theories, but really understanding someone like Andrews, what makes him tick, that's tough, maybe impossible.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating, isn't it? We want those clear answers, those explanations. But maybe the real lesson is sometimes there aren't any. Got to be okay with not knowing everything.
That's where the critical thinking comes in. It's not about having the answers. It's about asking the right questions, looking at what we do know, and forming our own ideas, even if they're, up for debate.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's think bigger. We've been talking about Andrews, his crimes, how he got to Supermax. But what can we, as a society, what do we learn from all this?
Andrew's story, it makes us think about the whole justice system, doesn't it? Like if someone's willing to kill, even when they're already doing life, does that mean our punishments, our rehab, is it working?
Like maybe just being tough on crime, it's not enough, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to look at why this kind of violence happens in prison and out in the world.
Yeah, and are we even set up to deal with guys like Andrews? Are we focusing enough on actually helping them change, getting at the root of the problem, or are we just locking them away and hoping for the best?
It's a mess, no easy answers.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about it. And cases like Andrews, as messed up as they are, they can jumpstart that conversation.
Totally. They show us the dark side of humanity, what people can do. And they make us look at the systems we've built, the prisons, the laws. Are they really doing what we want them to do?
So for everyone listening who's been with us on this deep dive into Patrick Franklin Andrews and this whole crazy world, what do we want you to take away from all this?
I'd say embrace the mystery, Don't be afraid of the complicated stuff, the parts of human nature we don't understand, and never stop asking questions, even if they lead you to some dark places.
Love that. And if you want to learn more, do some digging. Check out Supermax prisons like Florence High. Look into what solitary confinement does to people. See what's out there about the justice system, how we punish and rehabilitate people.
There's a ton of information out there. Go explore. Sometimes the best discoveries happen when you dive into the unknown.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into Patrick Franklin Andrews. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time for another, hopefully less intense exploration of the world around us.